Thank you very much for the gracious words, and that too in Malayali, which you have used for me. Thank you very much. His Excellency Sheikh Nahyan Mubarak Al Nahyan, Honorable Minister for Tolerance and Coexistence, Shri Jitendra Vaidya, President Indian People's Forum UAE, Shri Pavan Kapoor, our Ambassador to UAE, Shri Paras Shahdatpuri, former diplomat and Chairman Nikai Group, Shrimati Sumita, Vice President Indian People's Forum UAE. Namaskaram to all who are attending this webinar online. Friend, it's my privilege to speak to Indians working and living in United Arab Emirates on the occasion of 75th anniversary of our independence, which is marked as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and the celebrations will continue for a year. Why celebrations for a year? The human psychology is such that men more frequently require to be reminded than informed. Before I speak on this subject, I would also like to give to each one of you my sincere greetings and express hope that as Indian citizens, whether we live in India or abroad, we shall do our best to make the dreams of our freedom fighters a reality and contribute in building a strong and prosperous India that can help itself, and if I may use the words of Mahatma Gandhi, father of our nation, which, if need arises, can sacrifice itself for the larger cause of humanity. The freedom and sense of dignity that we enjoy today as Indian citizens was denied to our forebears, and they launched the struggle to win freedom under extremely adverse and difficult circumstances. We need to remind ourselves about the privations they suffered and the sacrifices they made. They did so in a selfless spirit because they had no idea whether they will see the light of the day in their lives. And in fact, many of them lost their lives while struggling for the independence of India. But even during the time of our political subjugation, our thought leaders were aware of the importance of Indian culture and civilization. They knew there was some unexplained or mystic element that did not allow Indian culture to dry up or cease to exist even under impossible circumstances. The previous speaker, Mr. Shahdatpur, has just now mentioned, or rather reminded us, that we are, to use his own words, the oldest surviving civilization in the world. An Urdu poet, Allama Iqbal, has articulated this sentiment in his poem, Sare Jahan se Acha Hindostan Hamara. He says, यूनान व मिस्र रूमा सब मिट गए जहां से, बाकी मगर है अब तक नामो निशां हमारा, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जमा हमारा. The point he made was that the contemporary Egypt or Greece, though they inhabit almost the same geographical area, are quite distinct from the civilization of ancient Egypt or ancient Greece. On the other hand, India also occupies almost, I am saying almost, the same geographical area, but is continuous with the past and bears allegiance to the same values which ancient India had developed. India has endured even foreign invasions as it received their influence and adopted it to its own traditional framework. Today, when we read our great writers, we listen to the same heartbeats, the same universal ideals, which are struggling to embody in our national life. The lines which I quoted, the poet has made a statement of fact. Facts which are evident and obvious to everybody. There are many other classic writers like Basham, Will Durant, who have also expressed the same view about Indian culture and civilization. But somehow it has escaped them to figure out that mystic element which has ensured the continuity of Indian cultural values and has not allowed them to wither away. One explanation comes to us from Sir Birjendra Nath Seal, explaining that kuch baat, that something, which has ensured the continuity of Indian culture and civilization, which, as you have given the topic for discussion today, Bharat Ek Prerna, which can become a real source of inspiration for all of us. Sir Birjendra Nath Seal, in his famous book, The Positive Science of Ancient Hindus, in that book he has coined a significant expression to describe India. And please keep in mind that Sir Birjendra Nath Seal was Vice-Chancellor of Mysore University and a classmate of Swami Vivekananda. The expression he coined was, India is ever aging but never old. With age, when you grow old, then weaknesses start overtaking you due to old age. But he says India is ever aging but never old. What keeps India never old? If we look around the world, the ancient world, the civilizations everywhere were defined. I'm not criticizing anybody. Everybody has a right to decide about themselves. We are only trying to find out what has ensured the continuity of Indian culture. So civilizations were defined either by race, by language, or by religious faith. So if we look at the world picture, these civilizations were defined either by race. You define civilization by race, you exclude other races. You define anything by language, you exclude people who speak other languages. You define culture by religious faith, then people who adhere to other faiths, they are excluded. India, right from the beginning of its civilizational journey, our thought leaders, our rishis, our sages were conscious of the fact that India is a union of various races, of people who speak different languages, people who practice different rituals, different customs. So they had to define India differently. How they defined India? This again, before I come to the main point, in Gita, there is a shlok which describes Atma. Atma, which is not born, which does not die, which cannot be burnt by fire, which is eternal, which cannot be drenched by water, and it is eternal. So, Shankaracharya has used the phrase, Pura apinav evatah Purana. Puran is also used to describe a class of Sanskrit literature. So, he has used the word Puran to describe India, that like Atma, the body ages, Atma does not age. So India, because India was the basic paradigm, the defining principle was the universal vision. Indian culture does not view a person in terms of variable and alienable characteristics like caste, creed, language, but in terms of invariable and inalienable characteristic, that is divinity. Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi. The same divinity dwells in me which dwells in you. The divinity that is inherent in every being. So we defined the paradigm which we used, our rishis used, was Atma. They kept the race, language, customs, rituals, even the mode of worship. They did not include it because they are exclusive. We used a paradigm which is totally inclusive, which does not exclude anybody. It is basically this paradigm, this mystic element, which has ensured the continuity and vitality of the Indian culture and civilization. The inclusive nature. And this is not that we indulge in self-praise. No. No need to indulge in self-praise. You are living in UAE. You refer to any historian, Arab historian of the 9th and 10th century. I hope I have already taken 15 minutes. So I should...
Sir, we are enjoying. Please carry on, sir, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you refer to any of the Arab historians of 9th and 10th century, the early historians, whether it is Tabri, whether it is Ibn Kasir, Ibn Asir, Ibn Khaldun, Masudi, any one of them, you will be surprised to see that the first chapter is mostly devoted to India. Mostly devoted to India. And Tabri quotes a narration from Hazrat Ali and reported by Ibn Abbas, his cousin. Both are cousins of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Tabri reports from Hazrat Ali, as reported by Ibn Abbas. And this is mentioned in the first chapter of Tabri. And Tabri is the first historian among the Arabs. And he says that Hazrat Ali said that everything from India is beautiful and has a fragrance, a sweetness about it. Why it is so? It is so because Arabs believed that when Adam was expelled from paradise, before descending, he grabbed whatever he could from the paradise, the leaves, the flowers, the seeds, and everything, and he, with these things from paradise, he landed in India. Therefore, Hazrat Ali says that Indian goods are marked by their fragrance, by their sweetness, by their high quality. Why? Because they have an imprint of paradise on it. This was the India as viewed by the Arabs. In fact, I have quoted 4 lines of Allama Iqbal. There is another poem by him, which is, the title of the poem is Mera Watan, my homeland, my country. And there is a line in it which says, Mere Arab ko aayi thandi hawa jahan se. I belong to the land from which the Holy Prophet felt the cool breeze coming from India. I belong to that country. So this is a line which I have quoted from his poem. But when I read the original text of the prophetic tradition, it says, Ajidu rihal ilmi min biladil Hind. I am feeling the cool breeze of knowledge coming from land of India. This point I am making with reference to the term which you have used more than once, Vishwa Guru. If the breeze of the cool breeze of what? Not of good weather. What he is saying is of knowledge. Gyan Parampara. This cool breeze of knowledge, I can feel coming from India. He had never visited India, but he could feel that the importance of the knowledge tradition of India. And again, I would like to refer to the Arab historians who divide the whole world into, they say there are 4 important dominions in the world. Iran is known for its majesty. Rome is known for its beauty, for its being handsome people. China is known for its crafts and for its people being very obedient to the laws. And finally, they say about India that India is a place which patronizes knowledge and wisdom. So knowledge, and India is the knowledge destination, was acknowledged even by the ancient world, by the medieval world. But why we have made the fate which we have made? If India had such a glorious past as far as the tradition of knowledge is concerned, why we declined? That's a question which used to bother me a lot till I read Swami Vivekananda and particularly Swami Ranganathananda, who was also a chief of Ramakrishna Mission till about 10 years back. They say, particularly Swami Ranganathananda uses this phrase, he says that Indians were the worshippers of Ma Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. What does that mean? Not offering flowers. They pursued knowledge. Tapa swadhyay nirittam, ever devoted to the pursuit of knowledge. Swami Vivekananda says the purpose of the life is acquisition of knowledge. Then how come we became so backward? Swami Ranganathananda gives the reply. He says we adored knowledge, wisdom, but then we became villains of knowledge when we denied access to knowledge to large numbers of our people. Because knowledge increases by spreading it, by limiting it. It becomes a problem. Fortunately, the leaders of the Indian Renaissance movement, which started much before our independence. In fact, independence came as a result of the awakening which was created by the leaders of Indian Renaissance movement. There are many names. I do not have enough time, but credit goes to them. They started to revive this tradition. And today we can say, we can feel happy that tradition is being revived, and now there is more need to work in this direction with more devotion and more sincerity. And about the Vishwaguru phrase, I would like to add one more point. Vishwaguru is not an upadhi. This is not a title. This is not a position. This is the role which you perform, and how our ancient rishis, the sages, how they visualized it. They have said, Etad desha parshu tasya sakashad agraj anmana swam charitram shikcheran prithviyam sarvam anava. They have envisaged, they have visualized a India which will attract scholars from various parts of the world who will come to India not to study Indian tradition, but to study their own traditions. A European will come to India to study Christianity. An Arab will come to India to study Islam. Somebody from South Asia will come to study Buddhism, or even from America to study Buddhism. Where we will have scholars, erudite persons who will not only be well versed in Indian tradition of knowledge, but they will also have mastery over various knowledge traditions of the world. And they will attract scholars from all over the world. Now, I have already taken enough time, and now I am going to conclude it. As you know, I am speaking from Kerala, therefore to highlight the importance of the freedom which we enjoy today. It would be in the fitness of things if I quote Mahakavi Kumaran Ashan, a poet from Kerala. He said, Swatantriyam tanne amritam, Swatantriyam tanne jivitam, Partantriyam mani kalak, mirtiye kal bhayanakam. Freedom is nectar. Freedom is life. And those who have a sense of dignity, they dread unfreedom more than their death. They feel that if you are not free, then this is more painful than meeting your death. Freedom is not something which is gained one time. No, it has to be renewed every day. We have to renew, we have to win our freedom every day by living up to the dreams, the ideals, the vision of our freedom fighters. They wanted India. Which India can become inspiration for the world? Not an India which emulates the present material orientation. Only if India revives its own. When I say I'm using the word revive, I do not mean that we start living in the past. No. Indian tradition there are certain Sanatan principles, everlasting, they do not change. Then there are many things which meet the requirements of the times in which you are living. They are called Yug Dharma or Kal Dharma. We have to, in the light of the basic principles, we have to devise and formulate our ways so that we can respond to the requirements of the age in which we are living. But first need is to be firmly rooted in our own cultural tradition, and then sky is the limit to grow. Thank you very much. Valre Nanni, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Jai Hind.
Thank you for being a role model for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.